Xi Jinping stepped down, Communist Party stepped down, go the slogans. The chants had rung out across Shanghai on Saturday night and into Sunday, and across Beijing and Wuhan and Chengdu and other cities, and at many university campuses of the People's Republic of China. The protests in so many ways mark a first of sorts, or at least something China hasn't seen in decades. Hundreds of people taking to the streets to demand that President Xi step down was unthinkable not long ago.
It's surprising in the sense that compared to protests in China in the 1990s and 2000s, and we see a lot of protests, but many of these protests restrain themselves by targeting local officials and trying to express their loyalty to the center. But this time you see slogans, chanting like Xi Jinping step down, and even some call for freedom of expression.
The demonstrations that began with rage over harsh zero-COVID policies show signs of evolving into a movement demanding broader freedoms: freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, freedom from the dictates of Xi and the Communist Party. Reports say people in the country are accessing banned apps like Twitter, Telegram and Instagram through virtual private networks or VPNs to communicate and organize protests.
The zero-COVID policy caused the basic officials to directly face the people's pressure. So the dissatisfaction of both the peoples and the officials merged. I think this is a very severe challenge to the central government in Beijing and the CCP.
And it's from there that the counter crackdown comes. In Beijing and Shanghai, police has been deployed to scan people's phones for foreign apps. The stops can happen anywhere, on the street, at mall entrances. Any photos and videos of the protests are forcibly deleted. Non-compliance often leads to arrests and even physical violence, as in the case of this man who refused to unlock his phone for the cops. The censorship offensive extends to Chinese authorities scrubbing the internet of videos and messages supporting the protests.
For now, that definitely the government will resort to this kind of harsh crackdown and measures, and it is unimaginable that they will try to resolve the issue by backing down, changing the policy. It is not the Xi Jinping style, and it is not going to do any good for them anyway.
Just that reflects in these pictures: battle tanks, armored vehicles, military trucks deployed on the streets of Beijing to keep protesters and anti-Xi voices firmly indoors. This anti-government uprising in China goes down as the biggest since Tiananmen Square in 1989, when tanks gunned down anti-Xiaoping protesters. And the pictures raise specters of a repeat. Can Xi afford to take it that far?
It is very different, still very different from 1989, because in 1989, when students are protesting, that there's clear sign that the party leadership is divided, and people are exploiting this division within the party leader to press the demand. This time, we don't see any sign of division in the party leaderships, and Xi still seem to be in absolute control. We don't see any sign that some other party leaders are trying to take advantage of this to challenge Xi. So without the clear signal of party leaders, the divisions, then I would expect this kind of protest might not last very long.
It's early days yet into any threatening anti-Xi uprising yet. But is it a picture that will expand in days to come? Ripples of Beijing and Shanghai have travelled overseas too, to the expatriate Chinese community in London, Paris and Istanbul. Besides massive support for the protests in Hong Kong, is this anger or that in the mainland a make or break moment for the people of China?